Welcome to episode 3 of Is It Pastable, the show where I take unconventional ingredients and try to turn them into fresh pasta. My name is Danny Freeman. I'm your host. So far, we've made pasta out of a hamburger and french fries and out of gummy worms. And now on episode 3, I'm going to try to make fresh pasta out of chocolate chip cookies. Is it pastable? You don't usually associate chocolate chip cookies with pasta, but actually, chocolate pasta is not unheard of. Sometimes Italians have used cocoa powder in their pasta to sort of make a dessert pasta. So my plan is to grind this up into a powder and then add eggs, add flour, work that into a dough, see if it works. These cookies obviously are pretty hard, so I'm gonna try and crush these into a powder. So I'm just gonna take a whole bunch of these, throw them right into my food processor, and let's see how this goes. All right, this is crushing really well. We've got a nice little cookie powder here. So fresh pasta is actually very easy to make at home. A lot of people don't realize it. It's just flour and eggs, or even just flour and water. You can make an eggless version. And you could actually make them in the food processor. So since I have the food processor out, that's what I'm gonna do. Typical ratio is 1 egg per 100 grams of flour. So I'm gonna measure this cookie dust to see how much we've got here so I know how many eggs to add. All right, let's measure our cookie dust. I'm gonna add a little bit of flour to top it off. I'm using semolina flour here. If you ever look at a box of pasta, you'll see the ingredients are pretty much just 100% semolina flour. Pasta's very basic, but very tasty. Oh my God, that was so corny. So I've got my flour here. Pour this back into the food processor. Now, the biggest problem with using an ingredient like this in fresh pasta, all pasta needs a lot of gluten. It needs really well-developed gluten structure. Problem with using something like this is that, yes, this has a lot of flour in it, but this flour has already been baked. Now, those gluten structures have been formed, have been baked, they're past their prime. They're not gonna create a nice gluten structure like we need for pasta. Let's try making the dough first. So I'm gonna dump everything into my food processor and I'm gonna get some eggs. All right, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so I'm gonna mix this together in the food processor, and normally with pasta, it does not take very long. It takes like a minute maybe, and you'll see that the flour and the eggs will come together. They'll start to form little balls of dough, and then you take it out, you knead it together just a minute or so until you have a fully formed ball of dough. We already have a problem. This is very liquidy. Like, this is like, no. Pasta dough should not be sticky. It should not be liquidy. I'm just gonna add a little bit more flour, see if I can balance it out. I'm just gonna eyeball this here. I used the same ratio, but clearly I have to adjust. All right, I think we're at a good spot. So let me pour it out and see if I can knead it into a dough real quick. We want this all to come together. It really smells like cookies. I'm gonna try to run this through a pasta machine. If it doesn't work, I can always roll it out by hand. But normally you wanna knead pasta dough for up to 10 minutes. Because we ran it through the food processor, we don't have to knead it for that long. Pasta dough dries out really quickly, so you definitely need to cover it while you're working. You just cut off one piece that you're working with, let the rest dry. And I always recommend letting pasta dough rest half an hour. That also helps the gluten develop. Oh boy, this does not have the right the right texture for pasta dough. It definitely feels more like a cookie dough. You can see, like, you can just break it off. This is not stretchy. This just tears off. I have faith. I have faith that we can do this. All right, we're gonna try this. No promises, but I'm gonna do my best. And ideally, it comes out nice and flat and a nice, beautiful, long sheet of pasta dough. We'll see. That's all I'm gonna say. Oh God. I think we can salvage it. If I had to do it over again, I guess I would use not as much of the cookies and add more flour, but is that cheating if you use mostly flour, so just a couple cookies? That's not really in the spirit of trying to turn cookies into pastas. I'm glad we used a lot of cookies, but we're paying for it now. I'm just gonna try rolling this and then running it through the machine so the machine is not ripping it apart so much. All right, let's try this. Hey, there we go. That's a little better. That's a start. Slowly but surely, it's working. All right, we got one piece of pasta dough here. I didn't roll it too thin because it's not gonna make it. So this is gonna be nice, thick noodle. I'm gonna try running it through this pasta cutter. All right, we have some noodles. It worked after a little bit of effort. Looks like pasta. Sort of. All right, so I have some water. I'm just gonna put it on the stove behind me, let that boil. All right, we're now gonna make a sauce. This is a sauce that you can make at home. Traditionally, it's made with spaghetti, and it's a great one to know how to make. It's aglio e olio. Comes from Naples, and it uses a lot of garlic, and it uses a lot of olive oil, chili flakes, parsley, salt, pepper, and Parmesan. We're gonna use a lot of the pasta water. So pasta water, the water that you cook your pasta in, gets very starchy because of all the flour, and it makes a really good ingredient to add to a simple sauce like this because it thickens the sauce, it helps the sauce stick to your pasta. So we're gonna use some of that pasta water, which is why you need to make this sauce after you've already started cooking the pasta. So the timing of it is a little tricky, but it's a quick sauce, so it comes together quickly. All right, to start with, we're gonna start heating up between 1/3 and 1/2 cup of olive oil. And I'm using actually an olive oil that has chili in it. That's why my olive oil is a little orangish red. I figured this was a good one to use because we're adding chili sauce, but you can just use regular olive oil. Garlic is not commonly used in Italian dishes, as a lot of Italian Americans think. One theory that I've heard, I think is true, is that when Italians came over to the United States, they were often poor, they couldn't get a lot of the traditional ingredients that they used at home. Quality that they could buy was a lot lower. They had to add a lot of garlic to their food to mask the poor quality of the ingredients. I was not there during that time, so I can't verify that for sure, but that's what I've heard. If you grew up in an Italian-American family, you're probably used to a lot of garlic. My husband really likes garlic. He's not even Italian, but he puts garlic in everything. And when we first started dating, he would make this garlic tart that was just like full-on garlic. It was good, but it would just be emanating garlic for 24 hours. After he showered, brushed his teeth, just like garlic would be seeping out of him everywhere. You should always cook pasta in very salty water. That's gonna bring out the flavor of the pasta. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add our garlic here, and it should get toasty pretty quickly within a couple minutes. You can already hear it sizzling. Like I said, I'm using an olive oil that has chili steeped in it, so it's already orange colored, which may make it a little tricky to see if it's toasty. I think this pasta might be done already. I know that was quick, but I just don't want it to turn into mush. I'm just gonna go ahead and save some of the pasta water, and then I can drain the pasta. Saving about a cup. I don't know if I'm gonna need all of that, just in case. You wanna make sure it is nice and toasty, otherwise you'll just be biting into raw garlic, which you may like, but that's kind of an intense flavor, so. All right, we have our pasta here. It looks pretty good. It's fragile, but it has held up pretty well. While this is toasting, I'm gonna keep a close eye on it, but I am gonna start chopping up our parsley. We need about 1/4 cup or a nice handful of fresh parsley. This parsley is from my garden. I have a little herb garden outside that now is finally starting to give me some stuff I can use. I just planted it this year, so it's still new. Let me just chop this while I have the time. Chili peppers. And then my second tip is always to refrigerate the dough. I'm gonna add some water, the pasta water. Yeah. And oil and water, they don't like to mix, and your sauce will be really liquidy right now, but let it cook down for a couple minutes and some of that water will evaporate and it will start to thicken up. All right, this is gonna be a little spicy. I can tolerate spice, but I used the chili olive oil and then kind of maybe added a little bit too much of the crushed pepper, but that's all right, I can handle it. I think we'll see how that tastes with chocolate chip cookie pasta. All right, it's starting to thicken up a little bit. I'll give it another minute, and then I'm gonna add the pasta. It's best if you can get a block of Parmesan cheese and grate it yourself. That will melt better into the sauce. And you're looking for between 1/2 cup and a cup of Parmesan cheese, depending on how cheesy you like it. And we're gonna add that in. After we add the pasta, we're gonna add in the cheese a little bit at a time so it melts nice and well. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and add this. I did not make a full pound of the chocolate chip cookie pasta because it was a little tricky. All right, I'm gonna add in a little bit of the cheese, work that in. Like I said, cheese is optional. Wherever cheese is optional, I'm always gonna say yes. And I'm gonna go ahead and add my parsley in. All right, so this looks like a darker, much cheesier version of a traditional aglio e olio, but I think the chili oil is gonna be nice. I think we're ready for the moment of truth. All right, chocolate chip pasta. I can't believe I keep doing this to myself. First it was hamburger pasta, then gummy worm, and now chocolate chip cookie. All right, all right. The sauce is definitely spicy. Hey, I don't taste a lot of the chocolate chip cookie. I'm trying to feel it. It tastes like pasta. The texture's not 100%. It almost feels like a gluten-free pasta. It does not have the bite I was talking about earlier. I'm like really trying to feel. I don't taste the chocolate chip cookie. This is a good sauce. It's a little spicy. This is my dog, Barley. Barley, what do you think? I do not think you would like this. It will burn your mouth off, and I would have to deal with the aftermath a couple hours later. All right, taste A, process of making it, the texture. I'm sorry, I gotta keep it at a C. That was a little rough, but we did it. We did it. Sauce was great, A+. So is it possible? I'm gonna say yes. Thank you for watching. Join me for the next episode next week. Follow along, subscribe to our page for lots more cooking content.